No family in history has ever benefited more than the Trumps and the Kushners. And I actually want to talk about Jared over here especially, his son-in-law. His son-in-law was brought in to run Middle East policy at the start of the Trump White House. By the way, having zero experience in doing that work, and against the objections of his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson.
This is Congressman Robert Garcia, and while the Republicans are trying to distract everyone by talking about the supposed Biden crime family, he has some questions about the actual criminal family that was in the White House, the Trump family, and specifically their involvement in foreign affairs, considering they were all actually White House employees. Take a look.
Trump and Kushner, of course, made their first state visit to Saudi Arabia, overruling the State Department. This is the same time, by the way, that Jared was actually putting together a $110 billion arms deal for the Saudis. But what was happening during that time? The Saudis were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in room stays and foreign gifts that were illegal under the Constitution back into the Trump organization. Over and over, through hotels and properties, these shady investments by the president, his sons, and his son-in-law, who was an employee of the White House, all worked to enrich the Trump family and Donald Trump himself. So why have we not investigated the Trump crime family and the current and ongoing abuse by Jared Kushner as a government official? And I remind folks, Hunter actually never worked for the government. He was a private citizen.
I'm Rayy Vana, and welcome back to Rebel HQ. Congressman Garcia was making a whole lot of sense right there, so naturally Republicans in Congress won't care about holding Jared Kushner accountable or Donald Trump accountable for the very clear ethic violations that occurred while he was in the White House. No, instead, they'll continue on their tireless crusade about the corruption of Hunter Biden and his drug addiction. Despite the fact, and as the congressman pointed out, that Hunter Biden is not an elected official, he's not a government official, never has been. But let's be honest here. Republicans don't care about actually rooting out corruption or, as they love to call it, draining the swamp. Because whenever it comes to holding members of their own party accountable, they are nowhere to be found. But when it comes to Hunter Biden, he clearly did commit crimes. And the difference between Democrats and Republicans is, Democrats can say, if he committed these crimes, yes, he should be punished. But Democrats are also capable of critical thinking skills, something Republicans obviously lack, and they're capable of putting together that the Republicans are just nakedly attempting to tie Joe Biden into the missteps of his son. And they're trying to do it, as Representative Garcia points out in this next clip, with absolutely no evidence.
Yesterday, I sat in on the Hunter Biden deposition for hours. Republicans once again proved and provided zero evidence, failing to show any sort of link between Hunter Biden and the president. No links between those business dealings. This entire case is a political stunt and a joke. Donald Trump ordered House Republicans to smear President Biden. They tried and tried and tried and failed.
And we know that for a fact, that Donald Trump ordered Republicans in the House to attack Joe Biden as a corrupt individual, try to link him to his son, and to impeach him because Donald Trump feels very embarrassed and ashamed of his own impeachment proceedings. But as the congressman pointed out, the call is coming from inside the House. Let's just, for example, take a look at Laura Trump, Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, who wants to become the co-chair of the Republican National Committee and has since been endorsed by her father-in-law. Now, she's running on the promise to funnel all RNC funds to Donald Trump. She wants to use hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been donated to the RNC to help Donald Trump out with his legal troubles, which is particularly precarious at a time where Donald Trump has been arguing in court that he doesn't have the money on hand to pay out the massive amount of damages in both his E. Jean Carroll case as well as his civil fraud case. But she is not the only corrupt person within the Trump family. No, it runs much deeper than that. Of course, how could anybody forget during the 2016 election when Don Jr., Trump's son, met with an attorney from Russia in Trump Tower in an attempt to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. He was also put in charge of the Trump Organization after Trump became president and was photographed with Indian Prime Minister Modi, which critics say influenced Trump's foreign policy towards India. Now, the most clear and obvious example of a breach in ethics and corruption, as Representative Garcia pointed out, is Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law. Jared Kushner was put in charge of Middle East policy despite the fact that he had exactly no qualifications for that position. But he and his family cashed out big from him having that role. His family's real estate company received $30 million from an Israeli investment institution. They also received a pretty sweet and lucrative real estate deal from the Qatari Investment Authority. And finally, and the most conspicuous of all of these connections, would be the $2 billion a fund led by the Saudi Crown Prince invested in Kushner's private equity firm immediately after he left his position. He also received hundreds of millions of dollars from the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. Maybe instead of wasting taxpayer dollars investigating the non-connection between Hunter Biden's crimes and Joe Biden's finances, we could spend a little time looking in to Jared Kushner and the Trump crime family.